You can't ignore the tomato. Low in calories, rich in keratin and vitamins, not to mention the happiness hormone serotonin, and that color, red. Not red for danger, but for irresistible attraction. No surprise, with that genetic inheritance, that it tops the chart of favorite foods in so many parts of the world. But looked at another way, the tomato has played a more than active part in its own success. It's a journey that began more than 500 years ago, as the ships of the Spanish conquistadors returned to Europe with tomato plants, part of their South American spoils. The sailors paid them no attention. They just liked the yellow flowers. For their native prisoners, it was a different matter. They knew about the tomato's secrets. Land ho! The call every mariner longs for and dreads. For the sailors, a homecoming. For the tomatoes and the Indios, a step into the unknown. And a moment to take comfort in the taste of the homeland. They call it the tomato, the bulging fruit. They know it as the juicy elixir of life. It'll take the Europeans another 200 years to be converted. They only have eyes for the fruits of piracy. That's what they risked everything for. They know that without the prospect of gold, this expedition could never have happened. Their journey is ending. With no idea of the real riches planted in their pots and baskets, nor of what they're releasing onto an unsuspecting continent.
We're in the center of taste heaven, the heart of tomato paradise. And if there's one thing that expresses human abundance like nothing else, then it's flavors. Ox hearts, the crème de la crème, really earthy accents.
They call the tomato the Paradeiser in Austria, the fruit of paradise. And no one's more qualified to talk about the heavenly potential of this fruit than Erich Steckowitz.
All the fruit aromas combine in this tomato. It's very, very fruity. Hints of mango, papaya, pineapple. And one tomato, which has traveled a long way, is this yellow currant tomato. It's from Peru, and it's the oldest in my collection. This tomato probably started it all.
At first, the South American visitors seemed destined for a life of privilege, adorning the splendid gardens of the aristocrats. They were the ones who covered the costs of the expedition, and now they welcome the exotic results.
Hola.
Their South American souvenir, known as the apple from Peru, is the ancestor of all the 10,000 tomato types at large in the world today. "500 years ago, the tomato still had rivals for the hearts and palates of the old world. Who knows what moment of insight brought the tomato out of the shadows? to discover its unknown potential for the first time. With the help of the one ingredient that could release its fiery Latin temperament. Let there be light. Under the hot Spanish sun, the plant undergoes a remarkable transformation. No chaste pinkish glow, no blushing inhibition. It takes time, but it's worth it. It's all down to a substance called lycopene, which served no obvious purpose except to change its color. But maybe it did signal danger. The apple that introduced sin to the Christian world could so easily have been a tomato, the total temptress.
Here we have the greens from Moldavia. This is the Black Sarah, Goldita, Snow White, the ox heart from Macedonia, all the world's flavors mixed together. And nothing beats the taste. The taste describes heaven in the nicest way. It was once assumed that these fruits fell from heaven because they tasted so good. Hence the pun, Paradiser and paradise.
Erich trained for the priesthood. And now he's preparing heaven on earth for his crimson charges. 500 bales of straw are in action here, separated and spread between the young tomato plants. The straw fends off weeds and absorbs the rain. Strange fact number 1, tomatoes, the juiciest fruits, don't like the wet. And the straw serves another purpose, adding a whole extra layer of scent, the scent of summer.
A tomato loves warmth. She comes from a very warm place. And while she's resting at night, the straw keeps her warm. And the golden straw also reflects the sun into the tomato. It creates a tiny light show. And so the fruit ripens a little faster.
Sun and wind play fast and loose with the hormones of a young fruit. Flooded with acids and sugars, they grow to 10 times their size. Evolutionarily speaking, it's worth the trouble. Her sweet flavor is the tomato's most powerful bargaining chip on her way to the top. Sun and sugars, energy, work on 400 plus minerals and compounds, creating a single empire of taste. And yet, for hundreds of years, European cuisine resisted the charms of this New World interloper, considered both poisonous and inedible. But the fruit of paradise has a trick up her sleeve, and she performs it in the Italian city of Naples. The city is noisy, colorful, and full of promise. For the sophisticated tomato, all too tempting. Neapolitan cuisine without the tomato is unimaginable. And it's in Naples that the happy marriage between flatbread and tomato is forged. It's a big boost to the fruit's culinary career. Legend has it that the Italian queen, Margherita, has her finger in the pie. Pizza chef Antonio Michele tells the tale.
One evening at Capodimonte, the summer residence of the king, the queen wanted to eat pizza. A well-known Neapolitan pizza baker was summoned to provide the dish, and the pastry came decorated with mozzarella, tomatoes, and basil, the colors of the Italian flag.
Despite the patriotic display of colors, there's no guarantee that the humble tomato will pass the royalty test. But she proves she's up to the task. Of choreographing a royal tete-a-tete.
No, amore, facciamolo come il popolo, con le mani.
And the tomato evolves from the elixir of life to the elixir of love. No doubt it was the Venus breasts that worked their magic on the royal couple. The warm, ultra-fertile soil affects their temperament. This tomato variety is native to the area around Mount Vesuvius, Naples' own active volcano. These mini tomatoes are also called pomodorini del pianolo for their preservation method. Pianolo means pendulum, to swing. The vine-ripened tomatoes are hung from braided hemp ropes and left to dry in well-ventilated places, so they can serve their juice for many months. This is pure craftsmanship, and the per hectare yield is low. But together, the sun, the lava slopes, and hemp hanging give these tomatoes an exceptionally intense flavor. Once again, the tomato is inspired by her surroundings. Life may be good in the sunny south, but a globetrotter like the tomato will never settle down.
It's a journey for the tomatoes and for me. Actually, tomatoes have traveled with me all my life. And if I could count up the riches I've gathered on these journeys, it'd be about collecting the best, the most interesting, or the special from each country. An aroma from here, a taste from there, a color from there. And then there are the people behind the tomatoes and all their stories. Eric from Austria, or a family from Romania, a tomato lover from Siberia, or a family from Sweden, or anywhere. I think it'll always be like that.
Irina Zacharias is an expert for rare and unusual tomatoes. Russian-born, she has a large following of fans, and she documents her treasures for them on video.
This is number 627, orange Russian, 117. For me, this is one of the best. Heart-shaped, yellow, pink, orange, marbled. Number 555, garden peach. A very delicate, mild tomato flavour, without much acid. There are so many green tomatoes, already ripe. This one has a special significance for me. This is number 152, and in Russia it's called izamrudnaya yabloko. That means emerald apple. These tomatoes are used to tough conditions, and just like us humans, they've had to acquire a thick skin.
Irina Zacharias was born into a tomato dynasty. At her farmhouse in Regensburg, she cultivates old varieties she first tasted at her parents' dacha in Russia. Her parents have now joined her in Germany. A former doctor and an engineer, they help their daughter with traditional seed collecting. Recovering the seeds undamaged from the cavities of the ripe fruit takes knowledge and dexterity. When Irina left her homeland 17 years ago, many of these seeds were in her hand luggage. They were her family's most precious possessions.
This one's from Belarus. This one's from America. This is from Tula. That's where Tolstoy lived. This is from St. Petersburg. And this is a Mexican tomato. A real abundance. And I think that's so precious that we must try to hold on to it and not lose it. Again and again, I have to help tomatoes so they don't disappear. I save them. It's so important to be able to choose, to make sure that a variety can be saved and selected just as it is, so it doesn't get altered. And that's also what helped my parents to survive in the hard times in Russia. Under perestroika, people in Russia didn't get any money from the state. And so my parents took the seeds from their garden and sold them at the farmers' markets. They would display various tomatoes and explain, here's this tomato, and those are its seeds. And that helped them to survive in those difficult times. So there's always this interplay. I call it mutual assistance.
Irina is as down-to-earth as she is worldly. Characteristics she shares with the fruit that shaped her life story.
I went from Russia to Israel, and from Israel to Germany. I feel at home everywhere. I put down roots very quickly. But beyond that, in Russia I was a Jew, in Israel I was Russian, and here I'm a bit of a foreigner too. It can be wonderful to live in many places, but sometimes what's missing is a feeling of home. But the taste of childhood was always there. That's what lifts my soul, and it lives in my heart. And I'm happy I can do something to make the tomato world even more colourful.
Stekovich rules over his plant kingdom with wisdom and affection. He's earned his nickname as Kaiser der Paradeiser, the Tomato King. He understands his subjects' needs, but he doesn't spoil them.
The tomatoes are now ripening. They're turning the most beautiful colors. And this is important. We don't irrigate them. They get really stressed and have to deploy all their survival skills. They drive their roots down about 2 meters and try to hold on tight and draw out all the water they can find. And if you dug up the plants, you'd find the roots alone weigh 22 kilos. These roots connect them with the earth so they can absorb the aromatics and the minerals from the ground. And that gives the fruit a really special, intense flavor.
The tomato's most amazing achievement may be here in the deserts of Qatar, where the plants have a special relationship with the leading local athletes. It's mutual aid again. Without the racing camels, tomatoes could barely survive. "20 years ago, when the sheikhs first broke the stony desert soil, expectations were low. But the tomato dug in. And camel wealth worked decisively in their favor. The animal's manure is a perfect fertilizer, rich in nitrogen and minerals. They need the diet of a top athlete, daily servings of fresh grass and specially grown wheat. Nothing but the best. More than a ton of camel dung is collected weekly and taken to the tomato fields. Now and then, this valuable contribution merits a small reward. The sheikhs themselves were taken by surprise. The desert bloomed. No other crop can achieve this. And now, beside his valuable racing camels, Sheikh Mahmoud Ayay Al-Kubezi owns 40 hectares of the largest tomato plantation in the country.
When we started, we got it as a hobby at the beginning, as to how to plant tomato in the desert of Qatar. But after that, it is exciting. It became, which they called it, a big farm, especially in our local market. And now we are yielding almost 15 to 20 tons.
Most of the fruit grows in 310 tunnels under wafer-thin gauze to protect against pests.
But also here in the desert, the wind, it is supporting us very much. When the wind came, we excited. It is dancing, which we called it. It is dancing for the tree of tomato. It is also encourage or activating the tree to give more yield.
Again, it's the wind, the play of nature, that stimulates the plants. The yield per hectare in Qatar is up to a third greater than in neighboring countries. The tomatoes harvested here thank the desert climate for their specially sweet taste. Extreme temperature fluctuations between day and night promote the formation of fructose. It's a long way from the Andean valleys to the Arabian desert. But the tomato has secured a place for herself among the diverse flavors of the Orient. Today, in this culinary melting pot where food is almost always a feast, she's a welcome ingredient. The tomato is practiced in the art of seduction. She lures her lovers, and they fall under her spell. When Erich Stekovich indulges his passion, he can seem obsessed, led astray by a strange ecstasy. But appearances are deceptive. He's a professional and knows exactly what he's doing. In his attic, he hoards the seeds of 3,200 different tomato varieties, treasures traded among growers like precious gems. A few seeds are enough to tell a connoisseur the taste of the fruit to come.
We store our seeds in the finest women's stockings. The fine weave prevents insects getting in. Stored this way, they'll keep for 30 or 40 years, and that's quite exceptional for cultivated plants. I keep my favorite variety in stockings too. It's the yellow currant, whose seeds are 1,400 years old. And today, she's off on a trip with 20 other seeds to a very special tomato lover.
This particular admirer is none other than Woodstock legend Joe Cocker. He's a self-confessed tomato freak with a bias towards unusual varieties. At his Mad Dog Ranch in Crawford, Colorado, several glass houses assist his plant breeding.
My dad, he's been long dead, but years ago, he used to have an allotment in Sheffield, England, and on Sunday afternoons, he would take me there. And I always got kind of fascinated with the smell of the plant, you know. It's very, I mean, it's distinctly tomato, isn't it? And then, of course, I became a rock and roller. For years, I never thought about anything like growing anything. And finally, we came up here in 1992, and I just was looking for a hobby, you know, because it's, you know, we're pretty much out in the middle of nowhere here. So I got a greenhouse, and then it sort of came back to me, like remembering those days with my dad. So I started growing them from seed. You are so beautiful. To me, such joy and happiness you bring. Like a dream, heaven's gift to me. You are so beautiful to me. It's fascinating because there are thousands, right?
Cocktail tomatoes.
Tomato lovers get together.
Okay, now I have to get my mind on singing.
And before you know it, tomatoes from Austria are growing in Colorado. Joe has earned the reputation of a tomato whisperer. Somehow he seems to know the secrets of this plant. And most certainly, he knows she needs a lot of attention. Something he never denies her.
When they first come up, it's always a miracle to me, you know, to see this little whisper come through the soil. And then plants love to be brushed with your fingers. When they're babies, you know, it strengthens them. You know that thing of playing music for them? You know, you kind of leave the radio on at night. And whether they like the blues or classical is always you know, I kind of think they like the blues. But who knows with plants? I mean, you know, they might feel vibrations, you know.
Tomato ecstasy in Spain. Every summer in Bunol, 40,000 people flock to the Tomatina and pelt each other with overripe tomatoes. In this frenzied spectacle, tons of squashy fruit are trodden, crushed, and danced into a pulp. It began in the 1940s as a bit of harmless fun. But exactly why, nobody's sure. It's perhaps no coincidence that this theatrical orgy occurs in a predominantly Catholic country. Here, the tomato was long denounced as the fruit of Satan. Young women were forbidden to eat them for fear they'd be overcome by lust and desire. Around the world, researchers are working to understand the magic behind this enticing fruit. They want to isolate the genes that delight our palate. She's very complex, with more than 400 chemical compounds in her repertoire. And this temptress still refuses to reveal all the details of the fragrant life within.
The secret of a good-tasting tomato is actually a combination of 3 different things: the scent, the flavor, and the consistency. These are things we absorb and process in the brain, and the processing is linked to what we experienced in our childhood, what kind of tomatoes we ate back then. It even goes back to what our mother ate. So the predisposition begins in the womb.
At the Max Planck Institute in Potsdam near Berlin, plant geneticist Nicholas Schauer is working on the perfect tomato. He starts with our old friend, the small Peruvian wild tomato. She has a very high sugar content. The scientist's aim is to crossbreed the flavor genes of this South American ancestor with modern industrial varieties. It's called metabolite profiling, identifying the genes that control flavor formation. The research is bringing benefits to the industrial tomato. Its days as a tasteless water balloon may be numbered. A new generation of better-tasting tomatoes is already growing in Holland. These are the productivity champions of the tomato world, yielding up to 80 kilograms per plant. Every branch bears exactly 8 fruit. don't look for soil. The plants are on a drip. Annual world tomato consumption tops 120 million tons. But must every tomato be the same? Vienna's city farm has a different approach. Among old orchards and meadows, city kids seed flower beds with lettuce, radishes, and tomatoes. They weed them and watch their protégés grow. This small paradise is in one of the city's most beautiful spots, where the Empress Elizabeth grazed her animals and enjoyed warm cow's milk for breakfast. The gardens of Schönbrunn Palace. The children's bountiful harvest turns the imperial palace into the loveliest farm in the city. Sigmund Freud said, happiness is the fulfillment of the desires of childhood. But childhood memories can't be made in a factory. In order to know moments of adult contentment, the right experiences have to be gathered as a child.
When I watch the children, then I feel transported back to my own childhood, when we would load the picked tomatoes and I sat between the boxes and I loved hiding behind them. I was drawn by the scent of the tomatoes. It's such an intense aroma, sweetness, plums, apples, pears. And when I close my eyes, I can sense that aroma. It's true, I can't live without tomatoes.
At his farm, Erich Stekovich processes more than 30 tons of tomatoes every summer. The tomato once again shows her versatility, from classic pesto to exotic chutneys. From harvesting to processing is never more than 2 hours, essential if flavors are to be preserved.
This is the final phase in the life of the tomato. They're now fully ripe, and I want to capture the taste of the days when they were hanging low on the vine. I'd like to squeeze it into the bottle so that when the bottle is opened, it comes out again. And I would like all those who buy it to have the feeling that they're standing in the middle of a tomato field. That's the great challenge. I want to pass on the flavor to people who love this fruit.
The latest chapter in the tomato's amazing success story is being written in China. For a long time, the Xihongshe, or red fruit from the West, could not find a home here. might seem surprising in a country where red symbolizes happiness, fame, and wealth. The Chinese even marry in red. Today, fortune is smiling on China. The cultivation, harvesting, and processing of tomatoes is a vital part of the economy. These huge fields are in China's northern Xinjiang province, vast prairies on the historic Silk Road. Here, where Marco Polo once brought spaghetti from China back to Italy, the tomatoes now leaving a new trail. With an output of 30 million tons a year, China is vying for the title of world's greatest tomato exporter. This tomato harvest is not destined for domestic tables. Instead, it'll be processed into tomato paste. That's how China plays its part in the world's most famous sauce, ketchup. In fact, the origins of ketchup are Chinese. In the 15th century, it was a spicy sauce served with fish or chicken, called ketchup. English sailors brought it with them to Europe and North America. It's likely that Henry John Heinz drew inspiration for his world-famous ketchup from the Chinese sauce. Today, the tomato paste for many brands of ketchup comes from Chinese factories. This one plant produces 550,000 tons of tomato paste every year. Even as a paste, the tomato has given up none of its health benefits. It's unique among fruits in becoming a more effective antioxidant once it's been cooked. The army plays an important role in the tomato business, providing many jobs in Xinjiang province and keeping the soldiers in this tense border region busy. The finished concentrate goes into 250-litre barrels and is shipped worldwide, much of it to Europe. The tomato brings profitable business to China. But she's also on the lookout for culinary success. Ever eager to be part of the scene, she's chosen a prime location in Shanghai's financial center. Célèbre de Tomato is the name of this gourmet temple, where the tomato enjoys celebrity status. Here, each and every dish is dominated by the red fruit. One man is responsible for the tomato's meteoric rise in China. Professor Li Jingfu pioneered the breeding of all the varieties that now grow in the fields of Xinjiang.
I grew up in Sihuha in northern China. The climate there is so harsh, there were very few fresh vegetables. And so when I came to Dongbei Nongga to study, I decided to learn about vegetable growing. At that time, Dongbei was the only university where you could study agriculture, and it still enjoys a marvelous reputation. I chose vegetable growing because I wanted fresh vegetables to be available in China all year round.
But Li Jingfu soon discovered growing tomatoes wasn't that simple.
When we began researching tomatoes, we ran into a big problem. We didn't have enough variety of seeds. You could only get them abroad. Obviously, I tried to get seeds, Whenever I saw tomatoes at the market, I bought them. But when I was on a study trip abroad, I had a little trick to help bring seeds back home. When I was having dinner, I spat them out onto paper and wrapped them in my handkerchief. And that's how many tomato varieties made it to China.
Across the world, the next generation slumbers in these seeds. The protection of seed stock is the most important task if a fruitful biodiversity is to be saved. At Schiltern Castle in Lower Austria, the Noah's Ark Association preserves and cares for more than 6,000 old varieties of fruit and vegetables. This is where Irina Zacharias and Erich Stekovic met.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when the tomato king and queen get together, they can talk of nothing else but the wonderful world of flavors.
Oh yes, that looks good.
It's like a carousel. You can spin it.
That's what we're passing on.
The green color tells you it's ripe.
It's a creamy white. Oh, that smells good.
Oh, it's super.
Beloved orange? But what's that? That could be persimmon? That's like a Russian beauty.
I think you're the Russian beauty. When I look at all this diversity, the flavors, the shapes, all the stories, and the journeys the tomato has made to arrive at this point, then I get angry, in fact furious, that the EU is planning to ban all the old varieties, and then all we'll have to put on our tables will be 5 hybrids, all of them tasting of nothing.
Not us, Eric, not us. In her long career as seductress, the tomato has been a gift to the world. Her future is now in our hands.